We're manufacturing about 90% of our serotonin and GABA in that GI tract. And then we're calling that our enteric nervous system. So that is the second brain of the body. And
let's talk about the anxiety and stress and resilience. And that's good. You've mentioned some of the symptoms of anxiety, like just not being able to sleep, clenching your teeth. Let's talk about more symptoms. How does a woman know or a man know they have anxiety?
Sure. So I think I often try to kind of classify in the individual if they're dealing with more anticipatory what ifs and list making and over second checking and hypervigilance, I call it, or if they're dealing with rumination and anxiety. And it can be on both ends of the spectrum of that anticipatory distress or that reflective, oversensitive, overreactive. And those are the primary mental influences, is the kind of questioning, the over rumination. And I often say rumination leads to bloat, just like in a cow. And it's really true. So my book goes into 6 different foundational R's, which are root causes of dysfunction in the body that drive and manifest anxiety. But it also discusses with up-to-date clinical research and peer-reviewed studies on how anxiety or HPA axis imbalance can drive dysfunction in that same area. So just looking at leaky gut, for instance, we use a marker secretory IgA. And so secretory IgA can be measured in the saliva, and it can be measured in the blood, and it can be measured in the stool. And when we see this value elevated, that's usually seen in acute stress. And the body does this with almost everything, where it goes hyper before it kind of crashes. So, we go into this high secretory IgA if the body perceives a battle, or if the body is actually battling a pathogen or a bad bacteria strain. And then over time, we start to see that secretory IgA totally deplete and plummet. And that's when we start to see leaky gut. And we've seen in research that social anxiety, they've done studies on people at parties, new social environments, public speaking, secretory IgA levels go up super, super high. So it's like an acute stressor. And I equate that to stress drilling holes in the gut, independent of your diet. You could be eating an AIP protocol, and it could be your vigilance of perfection of the diet that is perpetuating your leaky gut. And so it's a really wild, and then leaky gut allows more inflammatory chemical mediator action, which crosses the blood-brain barrier and interferes with our neurotransmitters and perpetuates anxiety. And so it's just this, all of the R's of my entry points do that dance of chicken and egg. And so I try to give the reader a quiz in each chapter to determine which area they want to focus the most energy and effort, and which area they may want to focus on strategic supplementation support and maybe do some advanced functional labs. Whereas every chapter they can incorporate the food as medicine strategy. But everyone's going to have their own unique entry point in the premises of what I see as foundational causes.
This episode of the show is sponsored by Julva. Julva is an all-natural anti-aging cosmetic cream for your delicate feminine parts, created by triple board certified OBGYN Dr. Anna Cabeca. If you want to stop embarrassing urine leaks, reduce vaginal discomfort and dryness, and reignite your intimate relationship, try Julva today at dranna.com and use the code SHOW10 to get 10% off your first order. I think it's important to recognize too that, one thing you mentioned was AIP protocol, so the autoimmune protocol, so very stringent, very restrictive nutritional protocol, very good, right? So even in those instances, stress can overpower it. It's like that constant barrage that opens up essentially breaks down the fence to your gate, right? To your garden, and that causes that intrusion or that leaky gut. But how important the gut is, let's spend a moment on this, how important the gut is in providing serotonin, or our anti-anxiety neurotransmitter. And let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, so I beyond the role of gut intestinal enteropathy or leaky gut, I talk about rebalancing or restoring your microbiome, because on both ends of the spectrum, again, the good strains that we know of, the lactobacillus and bifido, are the 2 strains that we've seen in clinical research to help to manufacture serotonin and GABA. And those are serotonin's more popular, I think, because of the SSRI drug family. But GABA truly is a huge influencer of anti-anxiety influence, whereas serotonin has anti-anxiety effects and mood stabilizing effects. GABA has more of the physiological influence of stress effects as far as like tremors, shakiness, shortness of breath. I think of GABA as a great tool when we're public speaking or flying on an airplane or going to parent-teacher conferences, whatever it is that gets us a little bit wound up physiologically in that stress response. And so when the biome is in a symbiotic state, which means a good balance of gut bacteria, and it has a good expression of lacto and bifido, we're manufacturing about 90% of our serotonin and GABA in that GI tract. And then we're calling that our enteric nervous system. So that is the second brain of the body. And that compound is able to contribute back and forth with our central nervous system in our brain. And then GABA and serotonin also have influence on receptors outside of the brain. And this is where we tie like fibromyalgia to low serotonin levels. The kind of systemic aching and tenderness in the fascia and the tissue can be due to low serotonin. And then, like I said, the low GABA can drive more of the tremors. And that's what we see to an extreme state with like Parkinson's disease. So having a good symbiotic gut is a big piece of production of the good neurotransmitters. And then comes the chicken and egg. If we're in a dysbiotic state or we have imbalanced gut bacteria, especially if we have harmful bugs like pathogens like Klebsiella or Citrobacter and the Citrobacter frundi. These strains actually increase our epinephrine, which is the bells and whistles of our alarm system, which drives panic, anxiety, elevated blood pressure, and more of this kind of fight or flight response in the body.
Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel here and get those notifications, and comment below. Let me know your thoughts, what you loved, and what your action step is.